Welcome to our podcast, Parenting by the Pint. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, Minivan Mafia. Lauren and I are longtime friends from Chicagoland that love getting together to chat about life, kids, family, and beer.
Each week, we'll feature a brewery and sample at least 2 of their beers.
We'll also discuss a variety of topics ranging from parenting, pop culture, travel, marriage, and just about anything else that comes to mind. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another summer episode of Parenting by the Pint.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, well, yay, summer. We're in the midst of it now.
Yay, summer, and you think the school year is the busy time, and then you're wrong about that. You're totally wrong.
100% wrong. No,
So, in the spirit of just decompressing from just having a very filled weekend, we are going to share some drinks with each other that are a little simpler but joyful to us individually. And I'm going to start by introducing one of my favorite hard liquors, and that would be Scotch. I'm a big single malt Scotch fan.
Scotchy.
Scotch. I'm drinking an Oban 14 right now.
Ooh.
My husband would say that over time, since I started drinking Scotch, he has tried to help me find different ones that I would like.
Okay.
The thing about something like this, and I'm sure you can agree, there are many bottles of many different beverages where this is the case, where it can be very tricky to spend a large amount of money on a bottle and then discover that maybe it's just not your favorite.
Yep, especially Scotch.
Yeah, and unless you get an opportunity to try it somewhere, you really kind of just hope that the trend, the things that you've found that you like about certain scotches just carries over into different ones. And it's funny because with beer, we do the same thing. You find you like New England IPAs, you drink, you find them, you drink different New England IPAs.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's totally true. And yet for me, I could literally drink this one all the time. Good. You don't need to get me a different one. But he would say, well, it's very expensive, which it is, and maybe try something cheaper. And I appreciate his input. I really do. Every once in a while, he'll be like, well, what do you really like about it? And I go, it's just yummy. I just like it. And he'll be like, well,
can't pinpoint one thing.
Yeah, it's not very peaty, or it's not very smoky, or what is the flavor? Is it a richer flavor? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just good. And then I just like it.
That's fair. Sometimes you just like what you like, right?
And that is where I'm at. That's my skill level with Scotch. I wouldn't consider myself very experienced. I will tell you that there have been times where I've been like, oh, I don't like this as much, or I like this more. My husband's trying to figure me out. I don't really think about it.
You're just like, I like what I like, and that's where we're at. Yeah.
Yes.
I am not a huge Scotch fan. I have found a couple that I like, but not many. I don't like ones that are overly peaty, and I think it's more the aroma than it is the taste, and we both know how those
both feel
go
that way
together
about a lot of
so
things.
much. And so that's part of it. But yeah, maybe I'm always open to trying, though.
Same.
So I am more
Me
than
too.
willing to continue to see if there are any that I like better than the others. I mean, I didn't even drink whiskey at all until a few years ago when my husband really started expanding his bourbon and whiskey, because he does drink Scotch as well, but he has significant more bourbon, and now I like all kinds of bourbon. So
I know, right? Well, and I feel that way about things like Scotch and bourbon. I think that people's initial reaction, and I know mine was this way, was that sort of like, I'm never going to drink that. Like, that's never something I'm going to get into. Why would I want to drink that? That doesn't sound good at all.
100%. My first taste, I was like, nope.
Yeah.
And then these things,
it's too strong,
grow on you. Yes.
Yeah. And I've come to really appreciate, and it's funny because you mentioned your husband, and probably one of the first times I ever had scotch was the episode we
Yeah.
had him on,
Mm-hmm.
and we drank scotch. And for the life of me, I do not recall
I think
what
we
we
drank the
drank.
Lagavulin, I
Yeah,
think.
maybe that
I
sounds right.
think it
Yeah,
was
I think you're right.
Lagavulin.
And
One of the variations. Lagavulin has a handful, but I
oh,
believe that's what
sure.
we drank. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I was just like baffled by
Yeah.
the fact that I liked it.
Like,
I was
oh,
just like,
what is
what
this?
what is happening to
Yeah,
me? Am I
right.
dying inside that I now drink scotch? Like,
That might be actually what's happening in my life is that now I'm just like on the downfall and this is
and
this
your
is
body
what we
just needs to
drink
feel
now.
more, so
Yeah,
your taste buds need more, so it's
it's
all just like
it's a sensory thing. It's possible that that's
absolutely.
where I'm at now.
That makes
So
sense.
I feel
Well,
like
that's probably it.
the midlife crisis is scotch. Like,
That's fine.
whiskey in general, they all are under that umbrella technically.
Yes, I know.
So
Yes.
whiskey is my midlife crisis. I need a shirt that says
I
something to
love
that
that. Yeah,
effect.
that's really
So
good.
I like it. I like it. Well, I'm actually drinking a port dessert wine this evening.
Ooh.
From actually a place we went to when we were on our Napa trip a couple years ago.
Oh.
So I'm drinking an A&R port.
Oh,
A&R is a very
oof.
small vineyard
That place was
out
so
there.
good.
Loved it. I've actually ordered a couple of things from there since
Nice.
then, and I'm really a fan. I enjoy their most of their stuff that I've had. So I am drinking that. I was saving it for an evening, and I felt like this was a
The
really
right
long
evening.
freaking weekend, and I needed a little something just to bring me back. So
That sounds perfect for that.
yeah,
I think
so
that's
that's
a
what
very
we're
good
doing
choice.
here. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
mm,
So
good
what are
stuff,
we going
good.
to talk about, man? We're going to talk about something I never expected to ever talk about, which is sleepaway camp.
Crazy.
My children left for sleepaway camp yesterday. And 6 weeks ago, if you had told me that my kids were going to go to a sleepaway camp this summer, I would have called you a liar to your face. I had never had either one of them ever express any sort of interest
Hmm,
in this sort of thing,
okay.
going away for a period of time or doing camp related things. Now, my husband is a hiker and wants to do long range hiking
Hmm.
and, which involves obviously camping as you
Sure.
go along. And my youngest has expressed kind of what I would call a passive interest in
Okay.
that idea to the point where he'll be like, "Oh, I would like to go with you," to my
Got it.
husband.
Okay.
And they've done a little bit of like hiking and things like that. My
Hmm.
youngest is a soccer player and he feels like everything is training. So
Hmm.
he'll go on longer hikes,
Uh,
day hikes, with my husband,
sure, sure.
and kind of trot along, or they'll go do stairs or something like that. And
Yeah.
he'll go with that and looks at it as kind of keeping in shape type activity, which is
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Physical activity is great. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So suddenly my children expressed an interest in going to a sleepaway camp. And if you know anything, and I know you do, Lauren, but if you're listening and you know anything about sleepaway camps, you probably know that it's too late. That ship has sailed, you guys. They're all full. There's no spots. Like, it's
Oh,
not, you don't just decide the day before to go to sleepaway camp. They're all
yeah.
booked.
It's
So I start to look around
hmm.
and kind of stumble upon a handful of different camps, and I'll sort of tell you how I narrowed down, where I ended up. I mostly realized my kids wanted to do like traditional outdoor camp activities, like swimming in the lake and canoeing and possibly horseback riding or trail hiking or survival skills or, archery, riflery,
Yeah.
things like that. Um, and so, I looked around. There were a couple of like private camps that
Hmm.
I looked at and then
There's
discovered a
a
handful.
surprising amount of sleepaway camps that I had no
Yes.
idea until like we started looking.
Once you kind of start looking and you stumble down that rabbit hole, you discover that like everywhere is a sleepaway camp,
Yeah.
kind of. So
There's a lot.
YMCA's, there's a lot of YMCA sleepaway
Hmm.
camps. I kind of narrowed it down to that at one point where it
Hmm.
was just a couple of YMCA camps. I
Yeah.
ended up picking one in Michigan, which I've people have kind of expressed they thought was maybe too far away. But I'll be honest, I
Mm.
mean, we live in a suburb of Chicago. There aren't sleepaway camps. Not, I
Mm,
mean, there
there's
are.
not a
No, no, no,
ton, but
but there's
yeah.
not a ton within an hour or so of where we
And the
live. Like
ones
you,
that are very short. They're like 3 days. Like
yeah.
they're
And
not, yeah.
yeah. And so I was sort of like, well, I respect what you're saying, but like the couple that I found, the YMCA camps that I looked at, all were either kind of in Southern Illinois
Hmm.
or Wisconsin or
Yep.
Michigan.
Yeah.
And so, in order to go to one of those, you're talking about like a 2+ hour drive.
Yeah.
And that doesn't bother me if it's for a week, it's
Yeah.
not, I'm not worried about driving. Although, having done it yesterday, I can tell you that going back and forth in one day was not my favorite
How
activity.
far was that one?
It's about 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Okay, the one we're going to is about 220, so not
Okay.
much different. Yeah, it
Right.
depends. Yeah, on
Yeah.
construction.
So it's pretty close, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been, it wasn't that bad. I mean, I spread it out a little bit, and my mom rode out there with me, and on the way home we stopped in New Buffalo, which
Oh,
was kind of
nice.
a perfect midpoint, and had dinner and sat
Oh,
down and had like a nice dinner.
okay.
So that really, and I felt
Yeah,
a lot better
helped
having
break it
driven,
up.
yeah,
Yeah.
for a while at that point. I felt a lot better sitting down and having a glass of water and eating a good meal, and like doing the
Hmm.
rest of the drive was pretty easy at that point. It
Yeah.
just was a long day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Um,
Yeah, I'm
but getting,
anticipating this.
yeah, getting back to, what we looked for, the
Hmm.
YMCA camp we picked in Michigan has an astronomy program,
That's cool.
which is very uncommon for this type of camp. It's just not really the activity that they
Hmm.
have, but they have an observatory. It's been around since 1909, so they have alums that work for NASA.
Oh,
Sometimes
that's
the alums
cool.
show up and run the astronomy activities. And it just looked very appealing.
Cool.
So I was really fascinated by that. My youngest is pretty fascinated with astronomy. And that was something that I thought, well, he's going to try the camp this year and he's going to see a little bit of that. And then they have weeks of the camp that are focused on that
Okay.
a little bit more heavily, where they spend more time like out stargazing at night and things like that.
Cool.
And was like, well, maybe in a future summer, because this summer it was booked, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Um, you could try the astronomy week and see,
Hmm.
if you like that. So he seemed really interested in that, and I thought it was a good way for him to check out the camp and do all of these other activities that he was really interested in, and kind of see how he felt about camp in general.
Cool. Yeah.
That was the same take for my oldest. My oldest was invited to go on a band trip next summer to Hawaii, which
Mm.
is insanely big, and I have not yet decided how I feel about him traveling such a great distance. But my attitude was that if you can handle a week of sleepaway camp, you probably can handle a trip to Hawaii. So this was sort of like a
Mm.
let's
Fair.
test out your independence a little bit and see how you do.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah. We are also going to, or not we, my children are also going to a YMCA sleepaway camp. Ours will be in Indiana in about a month, so you can give me all the tips and tricks and surprising things. Yeah, I believe it's
Yes,
Camp Tecumseh is where they're going. It's been around for 100 years.
of course.
Their
I
hundred,
remember Camp
I
Tecumseh as a
believe
Girl
it's
Scout.
actually their like 100th year anniversary, or maybe it's
Wow.
100 this year. So it's been around for a very long time. And actually how we came about it mostly was because one of my friends, two girls or three girls, but they've been going there for a few years and they really enjoyed it.
Oh, great.
Their kids don't know my kids, so it's not like they would go together
Yeah.
necessarily. But they came, highly regarded. I was concerned because a lot of the YMCA ones have some piece of faith in their mission
There's
statement.
a religious element.
In all of them. And so I
Yes.
wanted to make sure, like, because our kids are not churchgoers, that it wasn't something that they necessarily needed to have as part of life, and they weren't pushing it on them or anything like that. And they are also not particularly religious and didn't seem to have any issues with that. So that was a part of my concern, even when looking at camps, was so many of them talks in some way about religion or faith or
I
things like
found that to be extremely true of the
Like,
private camps. It
yeah.
feels like, and I know YMCA, obviously it's a
Private
Christian
camps are
organization,
more, but yeah.
but I
Like
found
they go to
this,
church every morning for
I
some of the private
know,
camps, and I was like, well, cross that one off the list
I found
because
that, yes, to be very true at especially private camps seem to be very religious or based on religion. And I respect the idea, and
totally get it. It's just not our thing.
it
Like,
was, yeah, it was just something that I wasn't sure. I was honestly kind of afraid they would just feel kind of left out if everybody else there was super religious, you know?
agreed, because we're not. So I
Yeah.
didn't want them to be like, well, all these kids are saying prayers at night and we have no idea
And I
what
don't know
they're
what they're doing.
talking
Like, I'm
about.
not sure what's happening
Because
here.
that, and also in the past I've talked about my son who is like, where's the proof that God existed? Like, my
Ooh,
mother is
yeah, he's got
super
a little bit.
religious and he's the like, science, where's the science? And I'm like, just don't
Right.
ask
So you were
grandma, like,
afraid that,
don't.
well, the possibility of that being
Yes.
challenged might come
Yeah,
up,
so
which is a
I was
reasonable
like,
concern. I
I
mean,
I
you
know
know,
my kids. My daughter will go with the flow, doesn't care, fine. She'll go to
sure.
church, she doesn't care. My son, however, is like, he will
Mm,
he will
yeah.
judge like you based off of whether you have evidence of things or not. And I
And he
didn't
would
want to
challenge
put,
that.
yes. So I
Right.
was like, this is not going to be a good experience if your first sleepaway camp is anywhere based on that. And it felt like even though the YMCA is Christian, it was not as focused on that religious aspect. It was more of the being a good role model, respecting
Serving
each
your
other.
community.
Yes, like
That was the
that
big
type of thing. Yeah.
That was a big theme for the camp. My kids are going to Camp Eberhart. That's the name of it, in case
Okay.
anybody's. Someday I will update you and let you know how it went. And we'll do that on here at some, maybe we'll do like an end of the
Yeah, maybe
summer
we can do it after. Like,
roundup
how
or
did it go?
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll revisit the camp experience once they've all gone, and we can share, how we felt about those specific camps and also how our kids did.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have them do it.
Yeah, we could. I think that'd be great. My
That would
daughter's
be
always like, when do I get to podcast again? And I was like,
Yeah, I
I don't know,
bet you
dude. Yeah, they would actually
that
probably
would
love
be
that.
fantastic.
So,
So we'll put that
okay.
in the hopper for
Yes.
right before they go back to school. Maybe we'll try to get together and do that.
I like it. I like it. Yeah.
But yeah, I was pleased and discovered this at drop off even that it's very, serving your community and working together as a community and team building and stuff like that was a big focus of this particular YMCA camp, and I felt like that was good. I really liked that focus. So I felt good about the choice. I felt good about the distance. We talked about, the driving, not terribly bad,
Yeah, it's not too far. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I don't want to drive back there tomorrow morning because somebody's having a meltdown, but
Oh gosh, no, yeah,
but
you're correct. But it's not 6 hours. It's not, and I
yeah,
feel like if it was like an hour, it would almost be too close because it wouldn't, like, for my kids, we're so used to driving places that
right?
aren't far that I feel like it has to be
It
at
has to
least a little
feel
bit far because
away.
otherwise they're like, my kids can drive 4 hours straight without a stop. Like, they're
Yeah.
literally like, we're good. They're great little road trippers. So if it was an hour, it'd be like, oh, we're just going for dinner. Like, I don't feel
Yeah,
like
they
it
will be like,
almost
we've done
wouldn't be
this.
far enough. They do like what they call like devotions before bed or at the evenings, and like, but it's more like talking about their day, how they can better themselves. And it's very much like when they go to MMA, they do this mat chat thing at the end of it, and it's
Right.
talking
You've
about like
mentioned that.
things that are important to them, things they need to work on. It's like those kind of things. And I was like, okay, I can get behind this.
Well, and it's more of like a reflection
It
than
100% is. Yes. Yes.
than anything else. And that's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reflection is great. And kids those age
hmm
should do that anyway
Yeah.
because it's good for you
I
emotionally.
actually bought them both journals to write in every night while they're
That's
at
pretty
camp
good.
so that they can both write down like what they did, what they liked, what they didn't, like all the things so they can remember to for themselves and also to share with us when they get back. So
Mm-hmm.
so I already bought those. I've got them ready. So they're gonna do them. I mean, they'll probably forget, but my hope is that they do them at night and write down how they're feeling and things like that. So I'm
Right.
hopeful. We'll see. Again, we'll revisit this at the end of the summer and see how they actually did. But who
Yes.
knows?
Yeah. So, I also did go into, we have a couple of groups that we're both in that are like, family adventure groups and stuff like
hmm
that.
Yeah.
Read, other people's personal opinions on camps that their
Sure.
kids have gone to. And that was a big motivator for me for how I chose Camp Eberhart.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because there was a lot of positive. I did have a mom actually who she lives in West Chicago, so she's not
hmm
far, who reached out to me and was like, "Oh, my family's been going to Camp Eberhart for 5 generations."
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, five. Her kids are the fifth generation to
That's a lot.
go.
Yeah.
Um, and she was like, if you want to talk about anything or you have questions about anything or you just want to hang out, like just let me know. And I was like, that's awesome. I did ask some questions ahead of time. It was mostly just like, what are the cabins like? And,
hmm Yeah.
stuff like that,
Yeah.
what do they put their dirty clothes in? Is it kids
hmm
bring a garbage bag, like stuff like that.
Oh
And
yeah.
she was very helpful and
That's
informative.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
that
should
was
ask
really
my
cool.
friend some of these questions. I didn't think about that one. They give you a very detailed list of things to pack.
Yes, and I also have that list, and I will take a picture of it, and you can read the list they sent me, and we'll see if there's something that you didn't think of or they
Fantastic.
didn't put
I
on
like
there.
it. Yeah.
Um, and I can't tell you how many of them they actually like needed because we
Right,
haven't done that
until
yet.
yeah, but you guys will be
But
back, so maybe your
I
boys
will
can
tell
be like,
you,
"Hey,
we wish we
this is
had
what we
this,
wish
or
we would
we
have had."
had
Yeah.
this and we didn't use it, or whatever.
Yeah. Like
Um,
they suggest bringing a little plug-in fan, like in case they get hot and to drown out noise. Like,
yes,
all right,
I
cool.
will tell you, and we can get into that, but everybody had a fan in the
Mm,
bunkhouse.
okay.
My kids did have fans, although I bought battery powered because I
Uh,
wasn't sure what the electricity setup was going to be.
gotcha. We've
Um,
explicitly said everybody has an outlet near their bunk,
that's
so I know I can plug it
great.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, I would get that clip-on kind because you could
Yep,
clip it onto your bunk.
that's the
Everybody
plan.
had one of those.
Okay. Good to know.
But yeah, we definitely had a fan, although I think my kids are really lucky because this week the weather is kind of
Mild.
incredible
Yeah, it's like
and there
perfect.
isn't air conditioning in their bunks.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But it's so nice. It's so nice out. Like I don't think they're gonna have a problem with that at all,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say unless it rains and they like close the whole cabin up really, then it
Yeah,
might get warm
they'd
in
be
there. But
fine.
otherwise, I would expect they're actually going to be really lucky with that. Some of the stuff that I packed and strategy for packing for my kids. So like my kids have never really been away. Not, and I don't mean like, oh, they've never slept over anywhere. They've done a little bit
Mm-hmm.
of that, but like, they've never really been like personally responsible for taking care of themselves for a
Mm-hmm.
period of time
Gotcha.
like this. And so I wanted to make things kind of as easy as possible for them.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy yourself. Don't stress about where tomorrow's shorts and t-shirt are. Like
Oh yeah.
just so what I did was I bought 2-gallon Ziploc bags and put
Just put
outfits in them.
outfits in them. Okay.
And when we packed for the trip, I had them each pick out, with a surplus, but
Yeah.
5 or 6 days worth of shirts, shorts,
Mm-hmm.
socks, underwear. And
Yep.
we actually did pajamas for each day rather than re-wearing pajamas.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just to
You
kind of
never
make it
know. Yeah.
simple.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just put in a Ziploc bag a change of clothes and a change of pajamas. And then I put another Ziploc bag inside there for the dirty clothes.
Hmm.
So when they take something off, they put it in the dirty bag.
Hmm.
And when they put something on that that will go in the next dirty bag and the next. And we actually labeled the clothes by day. So like when I got there, my youngest took Sunday night pajamas, Monday clothes, which is what that bag said on it,
Mm-hmm.
and put it on top of his bunk. And he was like, when I come back here later, I'm going to put on Sunday pajamas and I'm going to put these clothes in the dirty bag. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to put on my Monday clothes and put my dirty pajamas in this bag. And that's their clothing agenda
That
for
works.
the week. They had an extra full set, like in a bag, it just says an extra full set. And
Mhm.
then I just put in a couple pairs of pants, couple swimsuits, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
An extra socks and underwear. There's like a bag that just, and
Oh
all of
yeah.
it's in Ziploc bags and it all says
Hmm.
their name and it says what's inside it so that they
That's
just,
not a bad idea. I will say that whenever we go on trips, the twins pack for themselves.
yeah, that's good.
So
We just
they,
haven't really done
yeah.
a lot
Yeah,
of that. We've done some of that. They do pack for themselves for
yeah,
shorter trips. I
yeah.
just felt like we hadn't done enough that I didn't want to kind of like throw them too hard into the mix,
Yeah, and I don't I won't I'll make sure I double check them. But there I feel like because we go on like 4 and 5 night camping trips often
Mm-hmm.
enough and they have been for a bit responsible for packing for themselves. The first time I think somebody forgot they didn't bring any socks or something like that.
Mm.
So it's like trial and error. They've gotten to the point that they remember things.
That's good
But
though.
I
That's a
yeah,
good,
but I do think that
lesson.
I would need to give. I didn't think about like a dirty clothes bag and stuff like that. So I
I
will
think honestly, it's
definitely.
the thing that
Mhm.
even with that thought, I later came to realize there were other things that I would want them to be able to put separate
Mhm.
from their clean clothes. Like,
Mhm.
so when I packed them or helped
Mhm.
them pack, I
Mhm.
took, they brought a pillow and we
Yep.
packed the pillow in a garbage bag.
Yeah.
And then when I took the pillow out, I'd said, this garbage bag is for wet, dirty clothes.
Sure.
And so it doubled so the pillow doesn't get
You have
dirty in the
options.
trip.
Yep.
And you
Mhm.
literally don't take it out until you put it on the bunk. And then you can just put wet, dirty, ruined,
Mhm.
anything that you don't want to put with everything else
Yeah.
and go into
Yeah.
this garbage bag and you just have it.
Nice.
And,
Yeah.
when we pick them up at the end of the week, everything's going to
Mhm.
go in the wash machine anyway. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But I just left that. So the thing that I struggle with the most is you have to have a place for everything while you're there. You can't just put your bath towel on the floor. It
Yep.
has to have a spot. And there
Mhm.
aren't, there's no closet for you to hang
Nope.
everything up in. And
Mm-mm. It's just one bunk room.
there's just your bunk. So
Mhm.
I was just very like purposeful. I gave them a 31 tote, like a utility tote. And I was like,
Mhm.
I put all of the towels, beach towel, bath towels, washcloth, stuff like that in there. And I
Mhm.
was like, this is for you to keep these things in. But
Ah.
you should, there's clotheslines outside of the bunks. And I was like,
Mhm.
obviously, when you use your beach towel and your
Dry it.
swimsuit,
Yeah.
these things should
Hang it
go on the
outside.
clothesline. If you
Mhm.
don't hang up your towel or your swimsuit, it will never dry.
Mhm.
I had to say
You
that
need
a
to learn
couple of
this.
times.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and I just left the 31 tote for them to use as sort of a catch-all for any items that they didn't want to just obviously leave out and weren't
Yeah.
like in the backpack that they
Yeah.
were using.
No, that's a
Um,
good idea.
I
Yeah.
hesitated to do that because I kept telling myself that anything that I gave to them, they were going to lose.
I was gonna say you might never see again. That's essentially what you have to do with this is
Yeah,
anything that they bring, you may never
yeah.
see it again. And you just have to be
So
okay with that.
I just picked out my least favorite
Yeah.
two
Hmm.
and gave them those and wrote Jorgensen inside.
Yeah.
Um,
And hope for the
to
best.
hope that that maybe helps.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
did not write names on every little sock and pair of
Oh God, no, I'm
underwear
not gonna
and
do that. If
shirt
they
and
lose it, they
pants and
lose it at this point.
yeah.
Like, I'm not.
I mean, I was like, I put these things in this bag and I literally said to them, although I think this is overkill, you should never have clothes that aren't in a Ziploc bag unless they're on your body. Like I literally said, I was like,
So that there's a
yeah,
place. There's a
like
place for them. This is
when
the
this
place.
shirt comes off, it goes in
Put
a
it in a
Ziploc
bag.
bag.
That's how
And when
this
you put the
works.
new shirt on, it's on your body. I even made a bag for their clothes that they take off when they put their swimsuit on. I was like, this bag right here, and I wrote on it, for clothes while swimming. These are the clothes that you were wearing in the
Like
morning that you took off and put your
that
swimsuit
you can
on and
put
then
back
put
on.
back on
Yeah.
later in the day.
Yeah.
And they're just
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that's brilliant. And I'm like, I know.
That's not a bad idea.
You
No,
should
I
do
totally
that.
get that. Yeah, these are, I'm gonna have to make notes and write down some of these things. Yeah, no, yeah, I've got about a month before we have to prepare for this. So I'll have to continue thinking
Yeah.
about all of these things and all the tips and tricks that we have to do. When do you
Yeah.
pick them up? How long are they there for?
Friday. So we dropped
Okay,
them on Sunday. We pick them up on Friday.
nice.
So it's 5 nights.
Yep.
It's not till later on Friday. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon. So
Ooh,
they spend the
okay.
whole day. I think they even do activities all day on Friday.
Nice. Yeah.
Basically, I think all but their very last. I don't know if they do this, but we picked our activities and scheduled them on a calendar. It's like
They
all,
pick when they get there.
oh,
So,
okay, cool.
yeah.
That's
So they
cool.
don't they yeah, they pick when they get there. There's I mean, there's obviously like everywhere else, there's a million things that they can do. They've got all the sports that you could possibly want. They also have all kinds of arts and crafts and theater and singing and dancing. And so there's lots of stuff for my daughter to do
That's
that my
fantastic.
son wouldn't like, but there's also, I mean, every sport, there were sports that I've never heard of, like Pateka. I don't know what that is. Like there were things literally that I was like, I don't even know what this is.
I
Like,
know, right?
so I'm like,
Yeah,
cool, you're gonna be able to teach me something when you come back because
that's pretty awesome.
I've never heard of this before. And then they have a
I
huge
just love that
pond and
though.
all kinds of stuff, and they have like archery and all the outdoor stuff.
Sure.
But they have a bunch of indoor things too. So I'm sure the twins will probably not be participating in many of the same things at all. They have one extra night because it's 6 nights, so we drop them off at 2 o'clock on Sunday and do not pick them up until 11 o'clock on the following Saturday.
Ah,
So I'm guessing a little bit of that time is figuring out what they want to participate in and those kind of things, and meeting the people in their cabins. That sounds like a
right.
whole big process, and
Yes.
all of that. It's 650 acres, the camp,
Wow.
so there's a
Okay.
lot of buildings and space and things, and they'll probably just take some of the time to figure out where everything is, to be honest with you.
I
Like
mean,
it's a
yeah,
large campus. So
that's cool.
yeah, so there's definitely it's gonna be interesting and lots of things to do. I'm interested to hear how things go for sure. I'm sure they're gonna be nervous, at first. Um, I think my kids have been to a variety of day camp things
Sure.
where they've had to meet friends and stuff, never an overnight camp. So this will
Right.
definitely be a first for them. But they've gone to camps that are from 7 a.m. until 5 p.m. and they've had to meet people and make friends and that they've never been with. I think for this one, the only difference is that they are split up because they're boy girl. So
Yeah.
they obviously won't know anyone in their cabins. They won't have any security blanket type thing with them. So I
Right.
think that first night will probably be a little
A
bit hard,
test.
yeah, to
Yeah.
see, but they know it's temporary, so I'm hopeful that they will. Everyone else I know that has kids that they've sent have same gender kids. So they've
Ah,
had a
they've
person
been
in their
kind of
cabin
together.
that they've at least had that, even if their activities are separate, they have someone with them. So that's my main concern, is that they don't have each other
Yeah.
while they're there.
I think
So,
it's reasonable for you to feel that way. And like I'll talk about drop off now a little bit
mhm,
because that'll kind of get into that. Our drop off was between 2 and 4 on the
mhm,
Sunday, and I
mhm.
will say that I don't know if I appreciated the seriousness of being there before it starts.
Okay.
We got there at about 2:30
Mhm.
and there was like two bunks left in each of their cabins. So ultimately
Oh,
my kids didn't really get to pick where
pick. They
their
just had to
bunk
pick what
was.
was left.
They just
Okay.
took what was left.
Hmm.
Now, in the scheme of things, I think for the most part that worked out They both got top bunks, which both of them would have preferred bottom bunks.
Mm,
But weren't like
yeah. Neither of my
destroyed.
kids care about that. In the camper, they both sleep on the top bunks. So I don't
Yeah.
think my
My
kids
kids
care one
have
way or the
both
other.
slept
Yeah.
on top
Yeah.
bunks before, so they're not real. It's
They're
not like
not
they're
super picky
afraid to
about it.
do
Yeah.
it. I think it was a preference. I don't think that it like killed the vibe initially. I think it
Sure.
was something that they were a little disappointed about initially,
Sure.
which
Yeah.
does affect the whole drop off
Mm-hmm.
mindset, I think.
You gotta go in
But
on a
yeah.
good note. You can't go in on a negative
Yeah, so that was
note.
kind of a bummer. So I would say if I had to do it over again, I
Get
would
there
have
early.
gotten there like at 1 o'clock or 1:30 in the
Okay.
afternoon and
Okay.
been at least there when the doors opened.
Gotcha. Okay.
Just to kind of like maybe increase the odds that you're there early and you get to just hang out and see everybody else come in. Because I think that's
Got it.
probably a positive experience when you're already there and you're kind of
There.
established and other kids are coming in.
Yeah.
You get to greet them and kind of meet them as they enter. And I think that would have been
Mm-hmm.
good. I
Okay.
think for my oldest, at least, most of the kids in his bunk had already kind of left the bunkhouse because they were doing swim tests for kids first.
Okay.
And
Got it.
so some of the kids had already left to go do that. And so when my son got there, there were only a few kids in the bunk,
To
still
even
kind of
meet there.
lingering.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that was kind of a bummer for him. He did sort of interact initially with one or two kids that were in the bunk. He's kind of quiet. So he's not like running up to people and introducing himself. But I think that, it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
empty, but I think that if you were earlier, that would probably help with that.
Yeah.
Um,
That makes sense. Okay. Good. I will note this.
in terms of like placement, so here, let me rewind a tiny bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that I was prepared for what the cabins were going to be like. And
Oh, they're like bare bones.
I don't mean that in a negative way exactly, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
very sparse,
Yeah, they've
very,
got
I mean,
pictures on the website that they send you. Like it's literally like there's some 2x4s together and a mattress,
yeah,
and that's like it. Yeah.
I made a joke today to somebody that I said it looked like I had built all of the bunk beds the day before.
Yeah, they look like there's 2x4s like together and they're just
They are,
barely holding up the bunks. Yeah,
yeah.
100%. Yeah.
And the
Mm-hmm.
mattresses are not, this is not
Mm-mm.
fancy
No.
hotel quality.
Oh
This
no.
is, it's a balloon with foam in it,
Yeah.
like,
It's like a
and
mattress topper. I wouldn't even call it a mattress.
yeah.
It's like
Now,
a mattress topper.
yeah, and we did sleeping bags. So that
Hmm.
adds a little bit of cushion to your whole, like, sleeping
Yeah.
experience. And my
Hmm.
kids are pretty, I don't know, unconcerned about mattress comfort. My oldest
Oh, our kids don't.
sleeps
Yeah.
on a crappy futon mattress that I am looking to replace possibly
Mhm.
while he is at camp.
Yeah.
And
It is
doesn't
not
seem
something that
phased.
we would be able to sleep on
Oh, heavens
at
no. I couldn't have
all.
even gotten into the bunk bed, I don't
Yeah,
think.
no.
Um,
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, this is definitely not a adult friendly. Like the only
no.
children can sleep in these quarters. So,
Absolutely. So I
yeah.
think it's funny because my mother went with me and she and I had gone to dinner after, and she
Hmm.
made a comment about how if my father had taken me to that camp, at one point he would have pulled me to the side and said, "You don't want to stay here, do you?" And I would have responded by saying, "I do not." And he
And
would
that
have
is how
taken
that
me
would have
with
gone
him.
down.
I would
Yeah.
not have stayed. I would have left and we would have gone to a very expensive restaurant for
Hotel
dinner.
and restaurant, yeah, or something. Yeah, fair. No, I'm fully expecting that because I've seen pictures of the cabins. So I'm
That's good.
definitely
That's
not
good.
expecting anything fancy, and neither are my children, which is good. So that's
Yeah.
yeah. So,
I mean, I
but
don't think
yeah,
either one of them walked in and was like, "What a
right, because they
pile
didn't
of
have
garbage."
any expectations. But in your head, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, oh, oh.
Yeah. That
And
was
then
pretty much, I was like, "Wow, this is great."
in your head, you're like teeth
I was just
clenched, so
like,
like,
"Oh my God, you're
ooh,
gonna
yeah,
live here?"
Yeah.
with
So
other people.
I will say that thankfully we've seen the pictures of the
The
sparseness. Yeah,
accommodations.
so the accommodations are
Yeah.
they leave a bit to be desired, which
Yeah.
we're
I will
anticipating.
say, and I don't know if
Mhm.
this worked out for us strategically, but I believe that it did. Neither
Mhm.
one of them had a bunk right by the door, which
Oh,
I thought was
yeah.
kind of good because
Mhm.
kids are gonna get up, excuse me, during the night. And
Yeah.
I
And you
feel
don't want to
like
be interrupted. Yeah.
if you're a lighter sleeper, and I actually do
Mhm.
think in the scheme of things, that probably makes a top bunk a better bet too,
Oh, true, to not be interrupted
because
like by
if
someone
you're
climbing down.
if you're in the bottom bunk and your bunkmate
Mhm.
gets up and down 3 times to go to the bathroom or to cry to the
That's gonna
counselor that
wake
he's
you up.
scared,
Yeah.
you're gonna
Yeah.
be bothered by that. So
100%. Yeah.
I think that,
Mhm.
and I think that honestly, it probably worked out where they were
Mhm.
at location wise in the cabins, even though we were late. Um,
Yeah.
there were kids that literally brought those like 3-drawer plastic dresser things
Oh my gosh.
and had them next to the bunk. And I think
Wow.
that, yeah, which is not something I
I feel
would have
like that's
ever
overkill. I wouldn't have even
considered.
thought about that.
No, yeah, I would have never even thought of that. And I also think it's kind of a dice roll because if you don't have a bottom bunk where you can
Then where
put
are you gonna
that
put
thing,
it?
it's not going to be by you and you won't be, yeah, you'll have to walk across the
Yeah.
room to get to your stuff.
Interesting.
um
Hmm.
Maybe. And
Yeah.
so I thought that was interesting, and I thought in if you were on a bottom bunk it gives you a surface because the top of it you can put things on. So
Mm,
like if you wanted to
yeah.
put books or a lantern or stuff like that,
Hmm.
you would be able to put that on there.
Yeah.
um
Hmm.
my youngest, his bunkhouse was what I would call slightly better.
Okay.
And they had these little like nooks at the top,
Hmm.
at the bottom and top bunks where you had like basically a shelf. Um, and they were able to put things
Oh,
that
well, that's kind of nice.
yeah, so he filled his with stuff kind of right away. His little, little
That's
knickknacks that
convenient.
he wanted
Yeah.
to have nearby. And I liked
Mm.
that a lot. My oldest did not have one.
Mm. Okay.
And I don't know that they were on those bunks at all. I
Mm.
don't think it was that he didn't have one. I
It
don't
was at
think
none of that
any.
that building had. Yeah,
Um,
I'll have to look closer at the pictures, but I don't
I
think there's
would.
anything. But I will check and see. And I'm gonna make some notes to ask my friend or ask her kids
Yeah. A
about
lot of kids
that.
had those over the door hook things,
Mm-hmm.
that are like a J shape and then they
Yep,
have a hook on
totally
them
no.
for their
Yep.
like backpack or something, because
Oh,
you could
okay.
hang it on the side, and that way if you needed to get something and you're on the top bunk, you would be able to
It's
get to it without
closer.
climbing all the way down.
Yeah. Okay.
That was kind of genius, and I sort of wished that I had gotten one or two of those. I actually have some of those in my house
Hmm.
that I use for like towels in the
Yeah,
bathroom
we
because
have
our
some.
hook
Yeah.
in the bathroom is not convenient.
Hmm.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of
Okay.
brilliant. And I probably would have brought stuff like that.
Hmm.
I I I don't want to say I regret it. My kids did not concern themselves with bringing personal items.
Hmm.
They did not bring, I mean, my kids aren't like this very much anyway. They don't have like stuffed animals and stuff like that they
My
are real
kids have
connected to.
372 stuffed
Yeah.
animals. They've
I
already decided like who's going with them. So,
Yeah, my kids, I
yeah.
asked, do you want to bring anything? My
Hmm.
oldest, my mom gave him some Funko Pops the day
Mm.
we were leaving. He had them in the car, and she said that he asked if he could keep them, and that she told him to ask me.
Hmm.
And he never said anything, and they were in the car when we left.
Oh,
And I wish I would have known that. I would have given it.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
keep
sure. I would have
them.
let them
Like
keep
whatever you
something.
want.
Yeah, it doesn't
Like
bother me. Yeah, for
not at
sure.
all. And that
Interesting. Yeah.
probably he would have been comforted by that if he needed to be comforted. And
Yeah. Well, and that's
um
why I know that like my 10-year-old son has like a favorite stuffed animal that goes like when he,
mhm.
when we travel, it goes with him. Like he's had it for a few years now. Like that will if he needs it when he sleeps, that will make him feel better. So he will
Yeah.
definitely be taking that. My daughter doesn't have a stuffed animal. She has a ton of stuffed animals,
Mhm.
and she just rotates each night with a
Yeah.
different stuffed animal, and it's not like it's a favorite thing. It's just like a pillow. So I
Yeah.
don't know which one she'll bring. She'll bring one, but like my son, it's definitely more of a comfort thing. My daughter, I don't really know what it is. Like she just has
Right.
a bunch of them
Yeah.
that she rotates through.
Yeah.
So maybe she'll bring a Squishmallow as a pillow. I have no idea.
Yeah. So I
So we'll
do
see.
think that
Yeah.
even if it was just like a little thing, like I said, like the Funko
Hmm.
Pop, I feel like
Something to remind him of home type thing.
yeah,
Hmm.
or maybe some pictures of the cats or something, I think would have
Yeah.
been nice. And we
Yeah.
didn't do that. And,
Okay. We
I
already
don't,
talked about that. So we are gonna do that or something like
that's
a
good.
picture of the family, that kind of thing. Are you allowed to have any contact with them while they're there?
I can contact them. They cannot respond. So they do
Okay.
this thing where you can email and
Same.
they give them
I
the
wonder if that's a
letters.
YMCA thing. Yeah, they
I mean,
print them out.
and they
We
give
can
them to them.
email them, they print them, and they give them to them. They charge them 50 cents out of their bank
No,
account that they have to get emails. So they could say they don't want them if they'd rather have a piece of candy. So
that's
we
so
shall
funny.
see. I'm sure my kids won't. They'll want the emails, but yeah, we can email them and they'll print them, but they can't contact us back.
Yeah,
So
we
yeah.
can't get
Hmm.
response.
Yep, same.
I signed up for they do like packages and you can
Mm.
send 5 emails for $5.
Okay.
And so I signed up for 5 emails for each kid.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, and what I've done actually is my mom was also going to sign up and then
Hmm.
couldn't figure it out because you have to create a login on the YMCA
Login.
website and
Gotcha.
she
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just
Yeah, we have to do the
wasn't
same thing. So I'm sure
able
it's
to do
set up
that.
exactly the same.
And
Yeah.
so I was like, I'm going to email in the evening each day. I will add a little note from you in
Oh,
the
nice.
email.
That's cute.
So
Maybe I'll think about that too.
yeah, so myself and my husband and my mom have all three of us wrote little notes to each of
Oh,
them
nice.
yesterday
Yeah.
evening that they got, I assumed
Hmm.
this morning or today. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Ours are if you email them before 9 a.m., they will get them that day. Like they're very
Okay, I think
explicit
that's
about that.
okay.
So,
I think that it's
yeah,
probably says that and I
I'm
wasn't
sure it's
paying
probably
attention.
similar. But yeah, so
But
we
I'm
can
sure it's close.
contact them. They can't contact us. So that's
Yeah,
the
so
same situation.
I emailed last night. My husband will be home about 9:30. We're going to send them an email.
Hmm.
I've written kind of what I'm going to write to each of
Sure, sure.
them.
Yeah.
But it's weird sending someone a letter knowing that you
They
can't
won't
really
really
ask them
respond. Yeah,
questions.
I know. So
Like I
it's
want
more
to be
just like,
like,
so this is what I did today. I hope you're having fun.
how was
Like,
this?
enjoy,
And you
blah, blah,
can't,
blah.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I just sort of like,
Hmm.
oh, the cat was sleeping on your bed this morning.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's definitely
uh
different when you can't, and it makes you realize how much of your correspondence is asking questions back and forth.
right.
Like a normal everyday correspondence. So it's
Yeah.
different when you have to just tell a story almost
Well,
to
and like
them.
strategically, I don't want to be like, I really miss you, or
No, I can't
like
say that because then
it was
that'll
lonely
affect
in the
them
house without you.
emotionally. Yeah. Nope, you can't do
Yeah.
any of that.
I
So,
was
yeah, it's
like,
definitely
just be
different.
like,
Yeah.
oh, grandma and
It,
I stopped and had dinner, and that was
hmm.
nice. And then, I
Yeah.
wrote you
Just
this
like
email.
recounting things that are happening. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So,
same with us. So I'm very curious. I definitely think we should do a recap of how things went. But do you have any other tips before I send my
well,
kids off?
I have a note. Well,
Okay.
I'm sure this is on your list anyway, but we did get each of them a headlamp. Um,
Okay.
Instead of a flashlight.
Hmm.
We actually got them headlamps and lanterns.
My kids have
So,
lanterns already, so but yeah,
I bought them on Amazon. I can send you the link because they were really cheap.
awesome. Yes,
But
please
they
do.
were really good
Okay,
headlamps, and it was a 2 pack. So,
perfect.
uh, and it was something I was like, we sized them on them first, before they
Sure,
went and
sure,
everything.
sure.
So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
just put
yeah.
this thing on, and you push the button. I also kind of went through with them how to change batteries on them and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So everything's really simple. Although obviously
Nice.
there's counselors, and if he was like,
That could
"Yeah, I
help.
got
Yeah,
these
if
batteries.
needed.
Can you help me
Yeah, I'm sure
change the
that's
batteries?"
fair.
Someone would do that.
Yep.
But I did make a bag with batteries in it, and I wrote down
Mhm.
what gets what batteries. So like
Perfect. So there's no
the
questioning
headlamp
for them.
gets
Yeah.
3 AAA batteries, and it says headlamp AAA
Yeah.
times 3. And it's like the
Nice.
lantern gets 3 AA
Excellent.
batteries.
Excellent. Yeah.
So like I tried to do that with them so that they
Hmm.
would get a better grip on,
Nice.
and
Yeah.
not worry
Yeah,
about it.
no, that's good. I like
But
I
we
like
did,
this Ziploc bag thing we got going on
yeah,
here.
well, and
Yeah.
I did headlamps because I was like, well, if you have to get up during the night to go to the bathroom,
Hmm.
you might not have anywhere to put down your flashlight
Yeah. No, that's a
and
great
still
idea.
see where you're at in the bathroom. Like
Yep.
I was
I
like, but
love
if
that
you're wearing a
idea.
headlamp,
You
you'll
don't
be
have to
able
put anything down. Do you have both
and
your
the
hands
same with
free?
like walking on a trail. If you guys are doing something at night,
Hmm.
this way you can just put the headlamp on
Yeah.
and you don't have to hold a flashlight. So if
Hmm.
you're holding a railing because you're climbing downstairs or you're walking with a friend
Yeah.
or whatever, you don't have to worry about
No,
carrying
I
anything.
love that idea. That's a really good idea.
So
I like it.
headlamps was a thing
Cool.
that I kind of stumbled on that I thought was good. The last thing I'll kind of talk about is, in terms of drop off,
Hmm.
I was really not sure where my kids were going to be at in terms of being left and emotionally how
Mm.
they were going to be feeling and if they were going to be nervous or scared or anxious or
Hmm.
happy or sad. I really
Yeah.
couldn't tell you. My youngest had a little bit of mild car sickness on the way there that I think was
Oh,
just
stress,
um
probably anxiety almost.
well, I thought that was what it was, and I think it
Hmm.
was maybe just that he was like looking at his phone in the car and
Oh,
he
could be
got
a
himself a
combination
little
of things.
sick
Yeah.
and we had some lunch and we kept going and he was fine and I was
Hmm.
worried he was anxious.
Hmm.
And then when we got there, we walked into his cabin and there was actually a little boy in there who was clearly worried
Mm.
about his
Okay.
mom leaving him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And my son was changing for the swim test because he had to put his swimsuit on.
Yeah.
And I walked up to this little boy and I said this to my husband when I got home. If your kid is wearing an NFL jersey, I'm going to talk to him about football. And this kid had a 49ers jersey on.
Nice.
And I walked up to him and I was like, "Are you a 49ers fan?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he's standing next to his bunk, which is all football stuff.
Aw.
And I go, "You like Brock Purdy?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Well, I don't really like the 49ers very much, but Brock Purdy's pretty cool." And I just started talking to him a little
Yeah.
bit. He thought it was weird, and his mom loved it. I could tell she was very
Awesome.
excited. And he's
Yeah.
holding a football. He's holding a
Aw.
football in his hand. And I go, "My son's changing, but if you wait a minute, he'll play football with you right now."
Aw.
And he goes, "Really?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah." And at that moment, my son comes out of the changing area and he's like, "Let's go play football." And they run out. And that was how I said goodbye to my
And that was
youngest.
it.
It was just like,
Well, you
"Okay,
made that makes it so
bye."
much easier though. Like when they find a friend and yeah.
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 And the camp is sharing photos every night of how
Oh,
things
that's
have gone.
cool.
And
Yeah.
they had sent us a link and they posted last night's photos this morning, which I believe is
Hmm.
probably
Probably
how
their
it will go.
routine. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've kind of refreshed a little bit during the day today and I haven't seen anything, so I assume they kind of just do it
Yeah,
in
once a
the
day or
evening or
something
in the
like that.
morning the next day
Hmm.
or whatever. But
That's cool. I
a
like
bunch of
that.
pictures of
To
my
see
little
like
one
how things are
sitting
going.
next to him,
That's
this
cool.
kid.
See, if they, I do feel like it definitely helps to make a friend. I don't know how your camp does it. Our camp, you can pick one, you can request one camper that you know. But
Okay.
that's it. So there's no more than two people in a cabin that know each other, ever. Like
Ah,
that's
that's cool.
so that you know that there will be a bunch of people who also don't know anyone in that
Yeah.
cabin.
Well, the nice thing about this little boy that my youngest met was that it was also his first time there.
They try and do
Um,
that too. So they try and put veterans together and then first timers with a couple of veterans, but mostly with
yeah,
people that haven't, are in the same circumstances pretty
right.
much. So, yeah,
My kids are not together because they separated them
age
from their
difference.
age.
Yeah, ours wouldn't be.
My
You have to be within 1 year of each other to
Yeah,
be in the same cabin.
that
So, yeah.
was exactly
Hmm.
the same.
Yeah.
My oldest, I will say that kind of unfortunately, because we were a little bit late, there weren't a
Hmm.
lot of kids in the
Yeah.
cabin, when we got there. He
Hmm.
did sort of meet his like bottom bunk
Hmm.
mate.
Sure.
And they introduced themselves to each other.
Yeah.
And then there was a group of boys near his bunk
Mm.
when he came back from changing because he had changed.
Hmm.
And I sort of, being a weirdo, was like, oh, you should
Mm-hmm.
go talk to those guys. But he's older. So because he's
Mm,
13, I
mm-hmm.
didn't want to, going to talk
Yeah,
to a
be
9
the
or 10
one
year old
is different. Yeah.
is no big deal. Going to talk to a bunch of eighth graders is
Hmm. Yeah,
not cool.
it's different. No, I
So
get it. Yeah. Yeah,
I wasn't about
you
to
can't
be
do
like,
that. No. That
do
would
you
not
guys
be
like anime?
that
And
would
then I
not
just
go
run
over
away.
well. Yeah.
Um, so I
Oh.
had been like, oh, why don't you go talk to those guys? And he
Yeah.
did. He went over there, and it was kind of we were leaving.
Hmm.
My mom was very concerned about my oldest feeling
Oh.
comfortable. And I think she kind of emanated that a little bit to me and my
Uh,
oldest. I think
yeah.
my oldest, as you know, because you've spent time with him,
Hmm.
can be very quiet and kind of reserved, and
Yeah.
you're not really sure where he's at sometimes.
Yeah.
And he did come off that way. He seemed a little just closed, maybe.
Okay.
And I did kind of take him to the side for a moment and be like, "Are you good? Is it good
Yeah.
if we take off?" And he was
Right.
like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm okay." But he
He'll
was
figure
really
it out.
like, "I guess so, I guess,"
Hmm.
and but he's kind
Yeah.
of like that. I mean, you've met my
He's
husband.
kind
My
of like that
husband's like
anyway.
that.
So yeah, I think he'll be fine. Like it's just
I
they all
have
have
no
to
worry about
acclimate.
it.
Yeah, I'm sure
But
it'll
it
be fine.
definitely rattled me a little bit because my mom kind of
She put that in your head. That's
she
totally your mom's
did.
fault.
And I
Yeah.
kind of chewed her out a little bit.
Hmm.
We had left, and I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom before we hit the road. So we drove back to the main, yeah,
Hmm.
the main lodge,
Sure.
and um we were pulling into the lot, and I don't recall what she asked me or what
Hmm.
I said. And her response was, "Oh, well, he's never going to come back here again," to my
Oh my
about my
gosh.
oldest. And I looked at her and I was like, that is an extremely unfair thing to say
Yes, you have
20 minutes
absolutely
after
no
we left.
idea. He
Like,
might love it.
there's yeah, and I don't even think that I will say that I think later she was like, "Oh, that was definitely the wrong thing to
Yeah, she
say." And
realized it.
we're human beings, and
I
it
get
was
it. Yeah.
probably a train of thought moment, and she
Hmm.
said it because she was like, "Oh, he might not be having fun at this precise moment." Uh
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was like, don't do that. Like, don't say that. Like, we're
Yeah.
leaving now and he's here by himself. Like, and he's not, of course, because little brother is
No,
there.
and
And
there's yeah, but still. No, but that's not also like I was talking to I don't remember who I was talking. I think I was talking to my youngest and I was like the way you start the day or the way you start something has an impact on how you the
uh-huh.
rest of your day goes. So like your goal is to start things out on a positive note because
Mm-hmm.
that will help lead you the rest of the time. If you start something out, oh, I said this to my husband. I was like, if you go into something thinking negatively, you are going to have a self-fulfilling prophecy. You are going to
Absolutely.
have a bad time if you go into it with a negative attitude. That is not how you
Of
can start anything.
course. Of
Like,
course.
that is just not how this works. So you've got to at least go in positive, thinking like this is going to be good, you know? And
Yeah.
that's how you have to start it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and so strategically, my kids, we did pick out activities ahead of time,
Yeah, that's cool.
and we set it so that they do have one activity together
That's cool.
at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah.
So my thoughts were, well, if you're having a bad day, your brother will meet you at this.
Yeah.
And I did say to them a few weeks ago when we first signed up, I was like, if at any point you're upset, you can always ask for your brother and they will go
Sure.
get him
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
can talk to him and he'll make you feel better. And you guys can do that for each other. Like, that's the great thing
Yeah.
about both of you being here together
Mhm.
is that
Yeah.
you will always have your brother around and he can sit with you at lunch and at dinner and you can talk to each other and you can see how the other one's doing. And it doesn't matter,
Mhm.
if you had one negative experience because you'll turn it, but I
Yeah.
didn't go into it that deep with
But yeah.
them, but you know
No.
what I mean.
Yep, I totally
Um,
get it. Yeah.
and we
Yep.
got photos from last night and my oldest is hanging out with his bunkmates and he's smiling and
Yeah.
is good.
Good.
And I do think that, like, now today they did activities all day.
Yeah.
And he was signed up for activities that he was really excited to do.
Oh, good.
And that's another place where you're going to interact with people in
Mm-hmm.
addition to the people who you're,
That you're
living with.
bunkmates with. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
And
Yeah.
I think that, and he picked out really great, a nice balanced, collection of activities. My youngest is gonna die. He picked out physically challenging activities for
Everyone.
every minute of the day. I was like, don't you want to do like astronomy? He didn't want to do the regular astronomy activity.
Yeah.
They let you go to the observatory and stuff during the day if you or in the evening if you ask.
Sure, sure.
But he didn't want to, he was like, I don't want to do that. It's going to be boring. They're just going to teach me how to use a telescope. And I was like, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
Why don't you want to learn how to use a telescope? And he's like,
Right.
because I want to climb the wall. Okay, all right, all right. So he's
Oh.
doing like bike trails, like bike trekking, and he's doing the tower climb, which is wall climbing, and he's doing boats and kayaking, and he's doing survival skills, which is like
Wow.
cooking and building a fire and like
All right, he's gonna come back with like all kinds of skills, I
I
guess. Who knows?
mean,
He'll be ready to go with your husband though on
I
like
know.
their
That's why he
long
picked
hike
that
track.
last one. He
Yeah, for
picked that
sure.
last one. He was like, I'm gonna learn survival skills so I can survive on long hikes. And I was like, that is
Yeah,
great. Your dad's gonna love it.
yeah.
But
Nice.
yeah, he picked all these like really intense activities. And I was like, you're gonna be so tired every day.
Yeah.
And then they have a lake and everybody gets an open period where you can swim in the lake. So
Nice.
everybody's
Cool.
together. They have some electives you can do during that open period, like trail rides and stuff like that,
Hmm.
that are extra, but that they're available. So,
Well, that's cool. Yeah, nice. Awesome.
but
Well, I am
yeah,
very excited about the prospect of this.
yeah,
Um,
I feel really good about it. Like I said, I think my oldest was a little nervous. I don't think he was nervous about being left. That was a big
mm,
distinction I had to kind of make in my head as I was leaving.
gotcha.
I don't think he was worried about us leaving because I honestly believe if he was, he would have said something.
Yeah.
He would have been like, "Don't leave." And
Yeah, he probably would have said
I
something.
gave
Yeah.
him an opportunity to say, I'm not ready for you to go yet. And I even
Hmm.
offered, "Oh, let's set up your bunk more and let's go through your stuff. And do you want me to show you where stuff is if you don't remember?" And nope, 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 I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay. His
All right.
counselors were, there are people staying in the cabin with him. They're all these moderately attractive high school boys. Like, I was
Yeah.
like, is this like an Abercrombie and Fitch ad here? There's like
Yeah.
four guys sitting outside my kid's bunk, and I'm like, have you been
That's
sleeping in this
funny.
thing for the last 2 weeks?
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they mentioned it, and they also mentioned how it was miserably hot for that 1 week. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I'm so glad that we weren't here for that week. That
Right.
would be
Yeah, for
horrible.
sure. Yeah.
So
Oh man. Well,
yeah.
cool. Well,
Yep.
I'm anxiously awaiting to hear how your kids do, and I'm going to see how my kids do. We will recap
They're gonna be
this
great.
at the
Yes.
end of the summer and then find some suggestions for anyone in the future.
Yes, I will definitely update you as soon as we've
Sounds great.
returned
Yes,
with
give me
their
all the tips when they
input.
come back. I would love that. And
Yes,
then
and I'm gonna write that all down
I
because I'm
like
gonna
it. Yeah.
remember it if they go again.
True,
I
true. Yeah.
expect that unless my youngest has an absolutely miserable time, which I do not expect, he's
Yeah.
gonna want to go back next year. I can
Nice,
already tell you
nice.
that. My
Cool.
oldest, obviously, we're considering him going to Hawaii,
Going to
so
Hawaii for band.
I
Yeah.
would say it would be unlikely he would do a different camp. Although I do want to talk about that for just 1 second,
Sure, sure, sure.
because we mentioned that to each other kind of before we started.
Yeah.
Future possibilities for camps that I've kind of learned about since looking at the camp that we
Mm-hmm.
picked.
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance my youngest would consider going back to this one because he would maybe do the week of astronomy camp, and I think
Sure,
that would be
sure.
cool.
Yeah.
I think that if for any reason he decided he didn't want to go back after this summer,
Mm-hmm.
that I would kind of look around for something else that is similar, that maybe has similar activities, but might be
Mhm.
somewhere else. I also discovered that Northwestern has a bunch of academic camps. Something you maybe would be interested in. They're not
Mm,
just like STEM. They're not just, engineering
okay.
and physics and math and things like that. They have writing classes, they have drama
Hmm.
classes, they have everything. I'll send you the link to it, but
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
it
Yeah.
is really interesting.
Hmm.
Some of them are day camps, which obviously is
Yeah,
because
I'm
it's
not
so far
against that.
away.
I don't want
They
to. Yeah.
have Sleepaway.
Hmm.
But as far as I could tell from my initial research, it's 3 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Our mutual roommate, Melissa,
Hmm.
her daughter is doing a writing camp this summer there.
Okay. Interesting.
So
Interesting.
she'll
Okay.
know how it went and get to
Yeah,
tell
for
us all about
sure.
it. It's
Yeah.
certainly not cheap. In the scheme of three
Oh,
weeks,
yeah.
it's not crazy, but
Yeah. I mean, for a week
and
it's expensive, so three, I'm sure it's not
yeah, I
cheap.
mean, if
I'm
you
not
multiply
surprised.
that number by three, you're
Yeah.
probably close.
Close.
It might be a
Exactly.
bit more. They
Yeah.
stay in dorms, which is
Which
nice,
is actually
it's a little
nicer. Yeah.
nicer.
Yeah.
They do field trips to Chicago and take the kids to museums and stuff like
Oh,
that.
that's pretty cool. Hmm.
My sister-in-law has a partner in her office. She's a doctor, and she has a partner in her
Mm-hmm.
office whose kids have done it, and she said that they
Ah,
go on field trips to
that's
Chicago, which is
cool.
really cool.
Huh.
Um,
Okay.
so I do think it's not just, oh, let's do math problems all day. Although they
Sure,
do
sure, sure.
have one that was called
Things that
survival math, where you're like
are
doing math to solve problems to get
I
out
feel
of
like I should
things.
send my kid to that one.
Yeah, I want to
Um,
send mine to that.
right?
The greatest thing about it, if
Yeah.
you're trying to think about college, because your kids are 10,
Mm,
start thinking about
I
college,
know
right?
it's scary, but
Uh,
yes, sad but
the
true.
best the best thing
Uh,
about it is that you have to be accepted.
oh, that's
So
kind of
when
cool.
it comes to things to put on your college application, the
You
things that
can
my
put
brother has
this.
noted for his daughter, who
Yeah.
is now going to college, is
Mm-hmm.
the things that require you to apply and get in are
Oh,
really the best things to put on there.
okay. Huh.
And this requires you to apply and get in. Now, I don't know where your kids are at, but if
Yeah.
they score a certain level on STAR tests
Yep.
or standardized tests in Illinois,
Mm-hmm.
you will automatically get in.
Oh,
So if you're
interesting.
over the
Okay.
90th percentile on your STAR test,
Yeah,
you
my
get in
son
just,
is.
yes,
So,
my
yeah.
son is as well. So
Okay.
if I had hypothetically 3 weeks ago, if he had wanted to go, there were still options to do it even this
Hmm.
summer. Um,
Interesting.
he would have been able to get in very easily.
Okay.
Uh, they will allow kids to like apply to get in and get like teacher recommendations, and you can
Sure.
provide like your module test scores and things like that. If they did very well in the math
Gotcha.
class, but they just didn't do well on the STAR test, they'll consider all of that. They
Okay.
just kind of automatically let you in
Hmm.
if your STAR test scores are high enough, which is kind of cool because it creates
Yeah.
a certain standard that I think
That
is
you
really
have to be
interesting.
X, yeah,
Yeah.
this level to,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it
That's
is a
cool.
pretty high standard, but it's something that, like you and I are fortunate enough that we have kids who
Hmm.
are going to meet
Yeah.
that standard most
Yeah.
likely.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I like that.
Interesting.
My
That's
sister-in-law
cool.
also recommended the Illinois Math and Science Academy
Mm.
has camps over the summer that
Oh,
are supposed to be
okay.
incredibly hard to get into because they fill up very quickly.
Okay.
But they're super cheap. They
Really? Oh.
actually do have day camps that are closer. I think they have Aurora day camps.
Oh, okay.
Um, and
Hmm.
they're supposed to be really awesome. So that was
Cool.
another recommendation to me that I would maybe,
Okay.
for
I'll definitely,
our
yeah,
math
yeah, yeah. Math.
dudes.
Yeah, that would be good. My son really will likely also do a lacrosse sleepaway camp next
Mm,
year. There are many of them. Usually at colleges and they stay in dorms and they are focused on professional lacrosse players that come
that's
and run
awesome.
the camps. So,
My
um,
son
yeah.
did a Chicago Fire camp,
Hmm.
but it was just day camp in Downers Grove. He
Yeah,
really
yeah.
enjoyed it, but he
Hmm.
didn't feel like it was as challenging as he personally would have liked it to be. That's what he would tell you.
Gotcha. My son did a pretty elite lacrosse day camp this year. It was from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. straight for the week, and it was run by professional and NCAA players.
That's awesome.
And it was kids who are in state and regional programs. It was not your run-of-the-mill summer kid things.
That's really good. There is a soccer camp at Elmhurst College that's supposed to be very good. That is a Sleepaway, and unfortunately, it's run by a person that my brother's son had as a coach, and he was a horrible human being.
Oh, so not.
And I can't send my kid there. I mean, it's a good camp, and it's Sleepaway, and it's I just can't do it.
Can't do it. I understand. If
I can't give that guy money.
No,
he's a jerk.
If I had a personal thing with somebody, I would definitely stray from that too. So
you know, so if it meant sending him further away to something at the same or higher level, I would be happy to do it. I would they have a camp actually. There's Central College, whatever that school in Naperville is called.
Yeah, North
they
Central,
have a camp also that is run by like college and like bigger high school coaches and stuff like that. I think kind of run the program, or athletes at the colleges run the program.
Gotcha.
That I would maybe consider in the future too. Although I don't know, my son goes in waves with how serious he is about soccer.
Sure.
When it came to camp, he didn't want to go to a sleepaway camp that was purely soccer. But when it comes to extracurriculars of any kind, he wants them to be almost exclusively soccer related.
So who knows? Yeah.
So he's all over the place.
Got it. Well, we've got our options of sports and academics, which is good to have options. So we'll consider that for next year. But until then, we will see how this goes.
Yep. And I will obviously keep you in the loop. Maybe I'll send you a picture or two after we get today's pictures.
Nice.
See how everybody looks, and and then I'll tell you if I learned any more nuggets of wisdom once the week is through.
Awesome. That would be fantastic. And then we will update everyone how things go.
Yep. We'll catch you guys on the next episode. And at the end of the summer, we will come back around on this, and maybe we'll have our kids tell you all about it.
Yeah, you can join them again. Awesome. Yep. All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yep. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the latest musings from Parenting by the Pint.
Be sure to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to us wherever you find your podcasts.
Have a great week, and cheers to you all.